Hi, this is Simon Obsdale and welcome to another tutorial for Blender. And this is part 5 of a multi-part tutorial in which we take a look at how I went about creating this steampunk fish scene. So let's get into it. So this is pretty much where we left it last time. We'd made our dorsal fin, and as before I've put the dorsal fin and its accompanying spheres, which are parented to the dorsal fin, I've put them into the built group so we can just turn off that group and concentrate on today's task, which is this propeller assembly down here. So this time we're not going to be starting with a plane, we're actually going to start with a cylinder for the shaft of the propeller. So mesh and cylinder, rotate it through 90 on X. Let's have a radius of 0.1 and let's set the depth to 1 meter for the time being. Let's turn off the reference image, we don't need that. So then what we're going to do is make sure we're not in snap mode, which is where I left it, so turn that off. Let's come to add and mesh and let's add a cube and let it set its size to 0.15. And its Z location to 0.1, so it's protruding up a little bit like that. Let's come into edit mode, faces, and let's just select this top face. Let's come into the front view. Let's move that down so it's just off the top of the cylinder like that. Then I want to come into the extrude tool and extrude it up to, I think, here. So that's 0.3 on Z there. So then what we're going to do is we need to narrow it down on Y. Come into object mode and let's scale it on Y to something like 0.25. Again, come back into edit mode. We want to select this top face and let's come to the scale tool and just scale it way in like that. So it's nice and fine. And again, in the scale tool, we want to scale it out a lot in this direction, on the X direction. So scale it out like that. And still with it selected, let's rotate it on Z. So R and Z and 45. And now we've got the basis of our propeller. So let's come back into object mode. We obviously need to subdivide this. Add modifier, subdivision surface, viewport levels up to 2. Let's just hide the cylinder, it's a little bit in the way at the moment. We just need to add some loop cuts, so come back into edit mode, loop cut tool, some gentle loop cuts to sharpen up the sides a little bit more like this. Again, don't go all the way, we do want to keep some curvature there. And right click and shade auto smooth. I think this is going to be fine. This blade is going to be spinning the whole time. We don't need to refine it any more than that. So I'm also going to hit Control A to apply all transforms. Let's turn our cylinder back on again. Maybe think about the length of this cylinder. Let's come to the right hand view. Let's come into edit mode and X-ray and vertices. And let's just move all these over like this till they're just in front of that front edge there. Maybe move these in a little bit. Not quite sure yet what we're going to be doing with those. Come out of object mode. So we need 3 of these propeller blades. And we could just duplicate them and rotate them, but let's be cleverer than that. Let's add empty. Plain axes is fine. Let's rotate that through 120 degrees on Y. Let's come back to our propeller blade. Let's come to add modifier and array. Let's turn off relative offset, turn on object offset, select the empty using the eyedropper there. And let's set the count up to 3. And now we've got our 3 blades like that. And let's just, while we're at it, just commit that array. That's going to be fine. We're happy with it now. So let's come out of X-ray mode. Let's just think a bit more about designing this central shaft. Come into edit mode, faces, select the front face, come to the inset faces tool and inset it a bit like that. Come to the extrude tool, extrude it back a little bit like that. Inset faces, inset it a bit like this. Extrude it out like that. And let's do this one more time. Okay, this is a tiny little detail that nobody's ever going to see, but we might as well just have fun with it and just extrude it back a tiny bit like that. Come out of object mode. Probably just subdivide this as well. So add a subdivision surface. Come to shade auto smooth And we just need to add a loop cut in at the back there. Come to edit mode, loop cut that back to avoid that. And we are going to just refine it a little bit more later on. I'm just going to drop in a loop cut there and there in order to allow us to do that. So let's come back into object mode. What I now want to do is I want to just join these two together. So select them both, right click and join. And let's call this prop. So let's turn on our reference image again and see where we want to put this little fella. So as I say, we need to rotate him to get him into the right orientation. So let's rotate him on Z. That's negative 90 degrees. Bring him down to where he needs to be. Let's rotate him on X. I think about 30 degrees is going to be good. And our scale is a little bit too much. Let's just scale it by I. Let's go for something like that. Just so it's going to sit within that assembly a little bit better. Then let's come back into edit mode. And I just want to give this little bit of a flare on the back here. So let's select this row of edges here. And let's just scale them out like that, I think. And let's drop in another loop cut just to sharpen that up. So drop one in here. I think I'm happy with that. I mustn't get carried away with this too much. But now we need to consider how we're going to rotate it. So in theory, we want to rotate it on Y, but if we do that, everything goes horribly wrong. So we actually need to do something clever. We need to apply these rotation values to the delta. So over the viewport, Control A and rotation to deltas. And you'll see those rotations go away and they've now been applied to the delta transform. So now if we rotate it on Y, that's exactly what we want. We can rotate the propeller and it stays around the right axis. So let's actually just set up that animation. So we're going to add a driver. So right click, add driver. Let's clear the var. Let's use self and let's type in lowercase frame times 5. No idea if this is going around the right way. I'm sure there are brilliant engineers who are going to tell me I've got the direction wrong, but I doubt that once we've got any motion blur on this, anybody is going to be any the wiser. So I think I'm going to live with that. And we've got a nice little propeller there. So to finish this off, we obviously need to make these two protective blades on either side. So this is the process that you're very, very familiar with. Mesh, plane, rotate through 90, scale it down, move it over. I'm actually going to duplicate it where we've got it. So Shift D and move it over to there. Let's come to this one. I'm going to whiz through this and not explain it because you already know exactly what to do here. Select the other one, do the same. So both of those are roughly built. I actually want to join them together to make life easier. So select them both, right click and join. So in edit mode, faces, let's select these front faces. Let's come to the left-hand view and let's just extrude them like so. To select everything and let's just move it across till it's sort of centered up like that. And now we've got our protective assembly. Turn off object mode, turn off our reference, turn back on everything. And probably just nudge this up a little bit, just so it's sitting nicely in the middle of that housing. And there we go, there we've got a propeller. And I think that's probably enough for part 5. That was a little bit laborious, made a bit of heavy weather of it, but hopefully you've got a good result. And next time around, we can really start to finalize the overall project. So obviously we need to do a little bit more modelling on this dorsal fin. We need to create an interior with some cogs. We need to join everything together. So quite a few different tasks in the next part. So thanks very much for watching. See you again soon.